Hello and welcome to Season 1, Episode 14 of Jacked Up Being Frank. I'm your host, Jack Flanotes, and my co-host, Frank Aranio. We will discuss about the Dodgers spending a bunch of money on all their players, deferred money, and everything they're doing. We'll give our opinion on that because it's a big thing. Everybody's giving their opinion on what MLB teams are doing to combat that. And Mets and Pete Alonso saga continuing for this long period of time. And and of course, we'll discuss about the NFL games that went on this week and look ahead towards the championship round and make our predictions. And we will also, of course, react to the Knicks having a signature win against the Atlanta Hawks yesterday and what that means for the Knicks moving forward. But I want to start the show by asking a question. Is the Lions losing the Commanders more of the Lions' disappointment or the Commanders being a legit contender?
I think it's more about the Lions being a disappointment or really falling short of expectations. It's not to take away from the Commanders, and we'll talk about their side of this, but if you're asking primarily what was this game about, I think it was about the Lions coming up totally short. I know there's injuries with the Lions, but every team has injuries. I never think that injuries could be an excuse. And I know all things aren't equal with injuries, but the Lions were 15-2. They were a juggernaut throughout the regular season, and they just came up so short in the divisional playoff round at home. But honestly, I'm not in shock about it. I think there's a lot of people that are shocked by it, but I've had this thinking about Detroit. And look, I'm plenty wrong about teams, but all year I thought that once you get to the playoffs, you go back and listen to the tape on our shows,
Yeah.
the pressure on the Lions would be immense. This is a franchise that has been horrible most of its existence, has mostly had bad and horrible seasons, very little success in the history of the franchise, particularly the Super Bowl era. They've never been to a Super Bowl. They were so close last year with the double-digit lead in San Francisco, and this year coming in, major expectations, the fan base energized and hopeful and optimistic. They go 15-2. They absolutely take it to the Minnesota Vikings in the last game of the regular season at home to win the division. They get the number one seed. I mean, you know the story. And they just totally laid an egg. I mean, they turned the ball over 5 times. Jared Goff had an awful game. I mean, to not protect the football, to have a -5 turnovers, turn over 5 times in a playoff game at home when you're 15-2. I mean, they totally laid an egg. I mean, you want to say they choked? You want to say that's too strong? I mean, they definitely laid an egg here and definitely, didn't live up to the moment. And I really wonder, did the pressure of this get to them? And I would say that it did. A team like this, when, you're carrying the burden of a franchise that has come up short so much and has never been to a Super Bowl, there's immense pressure with that. And they have a great fan base. The fans really care in Detroit. It's a great sports city. I think it's an underrated sports city. I think that got to them. And then defensively, look, they've had issues all year. And a lot of people have talked about their defensive issues. And I know there's injuries on that side of the ball. But again, no excuse. I mean, 45 points, and again, the turnovers. I mean, they came up way short.
Yeah, I do think one of my thoughts about the Lions is that I'm gonna say I predicted them to win the Super Bowl, whatever. But I thought they were a great team, but I didn't think they were immune to losing on the way. That's definitely they weren't a team that was immune to losing because they have cracks in their armor. When they do lose, they lost to the Bills earlier this season. We'll talk about them later. They're a great football team, and of course they're playing the Chiefs next round. But they got absolutely torched by them. 48 points on their head, and the Bills kind of remind me of the explosiveness of what the Commanders can do. And it made like it was a bad matchup for them. I mean, the Commanders are a team that can drop 45 on your head. And the Lions they're so immune to just getting absolutely demolished defensively. 48 points to the Bills, 45 points to the Commanders. I mean, the defense didn't look good the whole entire year with injuries and everything, but everybody has injuries. Their defense is not. Their defense looked exposed, and they looked like they were exposed the whole entire season of something that you can expose in the playoffs. I feel like
Their defense was
yeah,
exposed in the regular season. You brought up a good point with the Bills game. The Bills moved the ball with ease. I forget the numbers, but they put up ridiculous numbers in terms of yardage. I think it was 48 points you said that they scored.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bills have a great offense, and they've shown that throughout the season, and they showed it again in the game against Baltimore this weekend. But that was a red flag with Detroit. And then the game, I'm not going to say it stuck out more than the Bills, but it actually, for me, was more concerning when it came to the Lions, because the Bills, it was like, all right, the Bills have a really good offense. Again, no excuse for 48 points, and it did expose the Lions defense. But the game where I really thought to myself, you know what, I think the Lions are in big trouble, was the Green Bay game at home. It went down to the wire. They won it 34-31, but Green Bay went toe-to-toe to them. I remember saying on this show, which I was wrong about, that Green Bay would beat them in the divisional round. But I did say that the Lions would go out in the divisional round, and then when I made my picks before the playoffs, we had the matchups, I had the Rams beating Detroit in the divisional round. I did not have Washington. Certainly did not have. I had them bounce in the first round. But honestly, like, if you want to go with the Rams, it may be strange to say, but I think it would have been better for the Rams to match up with Detroit than the matchup they wound up with against Philadelphia. I think the Rams
100%.
would have beaten the Lions, but the Rams, they were toe-to-toe with the Eagles. But I think because Washington beat Tampa Bay, that actually wound up hurting the Rams, because the Rams played the Eagles versus playing Detroit.
Well, yeah, I think because of the two defenses. I think the Rams, as we talked about, I think I talked about before in the last episode, they scored at will. And against the Eagles, they had a great defense. So then you look at the Lions, I think the Lions cater more to what they want to do. The Lions kind of cater to more like, we're going to let you score. If you want to score 50 points, here's 50 points. I'm going to let you have it. And the Lions, man, I mean, it's impossible to kind of score as much as you're giving up. 45 points is a lot. They're great, but you cannot put up 45 points. It's a lot to ask. The defense didn't come out to play. Jared Goff scored through 3 interceptions. That was kind of the swinging point. I mean, 3 interceptions.
Turnovers in any playoff game, but in that situation, when you're the number 1 seed, you're at home, you're in a dome. You shouldn't turn the ball over 5 times if you're at Lambeau Field in the Ice Bowl. But at home, in a dome, I mean, come on. It's inexcusable. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm going to use the word choke. Like, there's a choke factor there.
Yeah, I wanted to use that in my introduction, but I didn't know if it was too harsh. So, yeah, I mean, you could bring that up. Yeah.
It's a harsh word, but, like, I mean, if you want to, use a softer word for it, a euphemism, to just, like, not be so harsh on them. But I think it's justified to say that they choked.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you call it in sports. It's a joke. I mean, I'll bring up the Yankees blowing a 3-0 lead against the Red Sox. It's a choke. Red Sox had a hand in it, they had a big hand in it, but, like, people call that sort of thing a choke. Or, bring it up with the Mets being up 7 games with 17 to go, against the Phillies in 2007. I mean, people call that a choke, those sort of things. I mean, I know this is one game, but to play like that when you're 15-2 with those expectations in your home building against a young team, an inexperienced team. I mean, we're seeing what Jaden Daniels could do. He's terrific. But that's the sort of spot. I mean, there's no excuse for losing the game. And nobody had that. Nobody had Washington beating them. I mean, maybe some people had them losing. Again, I'm wrong on a lot of things, but I mean, I was on this all year with Detroit. I had this not only feeling, but I just seeing what they do and the defensive deficiencies. And it's like, look, once you get to the playoffs, it becomes more about defense. Yeah. It becomes more about running the ball. And they got exposed.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the other side. I thought this was a team, you look at the NFC, I thought this was a team that could go right through the NFC. But if you look at it more, maybe that take is not that good. I didn't really look at it more in that whole thing, but I thought they were a team that could definitely, you look at the NFC, that team is a machine. I feel like they could have ran through the whole entire NFC. But yeah, I mean, there was cracks in armor that I didn't really look at when I thought about that take more. There's definitely cracks in armor, but, definitely am surprised about them falling in their first game they play.
Of course, it's a legitimate take to say the Lions are going to win the Super Bowl and go to the Super Bowl. Of course. I mean, there's logic behind that. I mean, they're really good. Terrific offense. But I think there also was an argument to say, hey, they could be in trouble or they could go out early in the playoffs or they could go out earlier than people expect. And I know it's hindsight now. I mean, it's unfolded and they have lost. But I look at the intangible factors there, and that's what led me to think they were going to go out in the divisional round. Because again, the situation they're in, the pressure, and I think those things are undervalued now.
Yeah, it don't matter.
With analytics and metrics becoming more and more prevalent and driving the conversation on sports, which is a place for it. But if you look at the intangibles, again, you look at the franchise, the pressure on them. I don't find it as surprising when a team like them goes out early versus, say, the Chiefs had lost. And we'll get to the Chiefs game. But when you have a team like the Chiefs, I mean, they're two-time defending champions, but an established team that's won championships or won a championship and been deep in the playoffs multiple times, that's when it becomes more surprising. But I think it's less surprising with a team like the Lions. They had a lot to prove, and then just, again, immense pressure.
Yeah, I think this was
a suspect defense, which we saw it again, and then just turning the ball over like that. I mean, it's bad.
Yeah, I think. I mean, as much as Jared Goff, you think has a calming presence. This is not it's kind of like I think Jared Goff.
He's a guy who's played in the Super Bowl, and
yeah.
he didn't play well in that Super Bowl, but he played in the Super Bowl 6 years ago as a member of the Rams against the Patriots.
I thought you would be the calming presence here to kind of combat that. What you're saying is they're unexperienced. The QB definitely is a big factor in trying to calm them down. They have the QB. I thought they had the QB to do it, but again, a lot of young players. This Detroit was really roaring down on them. As much as I don't blame them, man. If my team's in the Super Bowl or my team is not in the Super Bowl, it has a chance to win the Super Bowl. Looks like a machine. Looks like a team that can go to. Yes, I'm gonna be very excited for that team. And man, they kind of fell to that expectation of their fan base and the whole league as a whole. I mean, a lot of me, as even other fans of other teams, really expecting them to go far. They fell those expectations.
Yeah, I mean, they clearly did. You could over criticize a team. Look, Dan Campbell's clearly a very good coach, but look, the coach is always accountable. And I look, he's smart. Obviously, he's a football X's and O's guy. But you know how he gets fancy with things.
Jameson Williams pass. It was his fault, but man, why you let him throw that? I mean, there's small margins for error here. I think that I understand that. I think I'll understand that. I think that definitely is a big learning experience, but I think there's small margin for error when you get down there. When you get down into the divisional round, we get to the championship round, we get to Super Bowl. Those are small margins of error. And having those, I
think he gets too fancy. Sometimes you just got to keep it simple. He seems like a guy that he likes to outsmart people. I don't know if it's his ego. I don't know the guy. I don't know what's inside his head. So it's tough to go there, but he is a confident guy, and look, he should be. I mean, he's a great football guy.
Yeah,
he had a good career as a player. He's doing very well as a coach, but I think his approach can be one and is one that catches up to you in these big games. Because these big games, it's defense, running the football. Playoff football becomes different, just like, playoff basketball becomes more half court. So playoffs in all the sports, there's a different element to them, and you need to be able to play in those playoff environments. And I think Detroit's now going to have to take a look at, how they approach these playoff games. I know, last year they won 2 of them. They were up in the NFC Championship game, but they gave that game up with a double-digit lead. So I think there's things that they really have to assess as a team and as an organization in terms of being best prepared for the postseason. They've clearly proven that they have a great regular season, but you know what? 15-2 means nothing. They're out.
Yeah.
Where they're at now, it means absolutely nothing. It reminds me of 2010. I bring it up because I'm a Jets fan. But 2010, the last time the Jets made the playoffs, the Jets lost 45-3 to New England on Monday Night Football in early December. And then they played the Patriots in the divisional round. Jets were big underdogs. They went into Foxborough, and they absolutely took it to the Patriots. I mean, they just soundly beat them. I mean, the game was kind of close, but the Jets dominated. The Jets upset the 14-2 Patriots. So for that 14-2 Patriots team, I mean, that's a team that had won 3 Super Bowls prior. but 14-2, hey, that meant nothing. They were out. So this Lions team, even though they lacked the Super Bowl victories,
they have the team.
15-2 means nothing. It's out the window.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to 38-28. 12 minutes left in the game. You're down 38-28. You're not up. You go kind of pitch to James Williams for him to throw down the field, and he just gets picked off. That stuff just doesn't. You need to they could have easily just went down the field like they normally did the whole entire regular season. I know it's regular season, but they could have done that. But they try to be too fancy in that type of time. I think you need to read the room there if you're a head coach.
I think they would have lost the game anyway. It's just the feel I had for it, but that ended it.
Yeah, that was really bad.
I don't know how anybody could defend it.
Yeah, I don't. Your wide receiver throwing down the field, head scratching. But man, this is a team that had a lot of expectations. It's a disappointment. I mean, you lose both. You're going to lose your offense coordinator, and you're going to lose your defensive coordinator. You already lost your offense coordinator. You're already officially gone. You're with the Bears. Ben Johnson signed with the Bears.
Yeah. So that's going to be very interesting with him being in the division.
Yeah. It kind of gives me a weird vibe of them leaving 4 days after, about 4 or 5 days after they lose.
Well, it's in the works beforehand. I mean, the Bears' job has been open.
Yeah, it gives me a weird vibe, though. You understand that. You just lost 4 to 5 days later. Everybody's cheering for you in the Bears facility. It gives me a weird vibe of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I get that. But look, he was a coordinator. This is a step up. He's becoming a head coach. That's just the way it is. I mean,
yeah, it is.
It's happened a lot. So, I mean, the season just ended. You remember of the Lions organization, and now you're with an arch rival. I mean, all those rivalries in the NFC North are very intense. So that will be interesting. That's going to make that division, which is already really good and really interesting, even better probably, and certainly even more interesting. So, man, the NFC North next year, that's going to be fascinating.
So because we could have talked about this for more, but I want to get into this game. This can be a little bit less of a talking about. I would guess to say probably a little bit less. The Chiefs beating the Texans 23-14. Texans held on, but I feel like as I said earlier, the Chiefs I know it's really weird for me to say, but Chiefs make good television. They always keep the game close. They always keep the door open for the other team. But at the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are going to slam the door closed, and that defense. But yeah, I mean the Texans hung in. But they couldn't get it done. I think we kind of all had that prediction of the Texans kind of hanging in. But at the end of the day,
Texans missing that extra point just deflated them. That was so big. Because they were down 13-3. They kicked a field goal. Then they got a touchdown early third quarter. And they missed the extra point. I thought that deflated them. That's big. I mean, because it's such a difference between now being tied and saying, hey, we're really in this thing. And they were still in it at 13-12.
I mean, that's an extra point. That's one more 15-23. It's a one-score game. Maybe you get the ball back, one-score game, other than it being 14-23. It's just a one-score game. Now you look at it, 15-23. You give C.J. Stroud a chance to go down there and win the game. I know it's definitely went another way, but 15-23. You still give it a one-score game, and she just rocked them.
Yeah, just at that moment. Yeah. I mean, I know you got to move forward and deal with the adversity, but that's just so big. When they missed that extra point, I was like, just objectively, man, that's huge. That's deflating, and a team's got to be resilient, but I mean, look, the extra point now, it's a lot different than it used to be when it was closer. I mean, they were just automatic, and now they still make it most of the time, but there's some misses, and a miss like that is just huge. I thought that really changed the game. I don't think the Texans would have won, but that was big.
Yeah.
The Chiefs, I mean, they just get it done. I think they're going to win next week. I mean, maybe I'm jumping ahead, and we're going to get to that later, but they just know how to win. And I think a lot of people think oh man, they're there for the taking, and offensively they have problems. They have offensive line issues, but they just know how to get it done. They have the quarterback. They have the guy, Kelsey at tight end. Their defense is good. And then, the head coach, Andy Reid, like they just have everything in place and they just win. They know how to win and they can win high scoring, low scoring, medium scoring. And I just trust them. Like I'm not going to pick against them. And I know people are really high on Buffalo now. But I just look at the Chiefs as a team that they just get it done.
Yeah, they get it done, and I think I feel like it's also scary because they still have that game in their arsenal of going out getting 30-35, and I think they're gonna have to do it next week. That's a prediction. We have to talk about that later, but I think they have that stored in. They have a 30-35 game stored in. They can definitely compete with those other offenses that they're gonna have to compete with, like the Bills or just other teams like that. Commanders. They have an offense that can compete with them.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Again, they could win anyway. Now they never got to 30 points this year, right? They still have not scored 30 points.
Yeah.
I mean, that's interesting. But you know what though, Jack? I love what you said. Like, I feel like it's going to happen.
30 against the Panthers.
I'm with you. Like, I feel like this week, because they haven't scored. That's a great point you just made. I'm going to say this week, because they have not scored 30 yet this year. This is the game they do it, because I don't think they need to score 30 to win. They could go win a 27-24. I mean, to me, like they just get it. I don't think they win a 13-10 game, but you could win a 27-24, 24-21. But you could make the case, hey, this is the week they got to score 30, and you know what? I'll bet you they score 30 or plus, because that's just what they do, and they're capable, and they get it done when it matters most. So it would be fitting, and to me, it would not be surprising at all if this is the week that they go score 30 plus.
Well, again, because the Bills are no joke. I think we'll talk about that later. But again, you're gonna have to. You want to kind of more. I think they're more like they look at the Bills as more of a threat than they look at the Texans. So I think they're gonna kind of try to, I don't know. I think it's just like they kind of gonna try to score more, and I think they understand that the Bills are definitely more of a threat. So.
Yeah, it's psychology. They know that the Bills are a dynamic offense that could put up a lot of points. So, yeah, mentally, psychologically, the Chiefs know that. And whatever it is, like, turn it up a notch or go into another gear, they know what they got to do. They have it. It's intangible. Again, analytics, metrics, quantifying things that are tangible, stats, data. Yeah, it all plays a role. But there's those intangible things. And this is a very experienced team. This is a top-notch, elite, pretty much all-time team. I mean, particularly if they win another Super Bowl. I mean, if they make history here, I mean, they're the all-time of the all-time. But this is an elite championship team. And those type of teams, going back to the Patriots, there's other teams too, but they know how to win.
They definitely know how to win. Another team that knows how to win in every way. We're gonna start. I'm gonna do the best game last. Let's get with the Eagles. The Eagles get out of their Lincoln Financial Field with the win. The receivers didn't do anything. Again, I mean, they didn't do anything in the passing game. Their passing game's a lot to desire. But again, you pay Saquon Barkley for January and February, and he gave you 232. He gave you 205 on the ground. And when Jalen Hurts is struggling, that's stuff you need. When Jalen Hurts is struggling to get 130 passing yards, having Saquon in the backfield is huge for them. And he can break out for runs. I mean, yes, the stuff looks great on camera, on highlights, but his value to the team is kind of one of the highest left in the playoffs. His value in the team.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to pick against the Eagles in this upcoming game because of him. I picked against them last week. I like what the Rams do. They arguably have. I mean, I think Andy Reid's the best coach in football. Harbaugh is really good, but McVay is outstanding. I mean, he's great. Um, I mean, with their quarterback Stafford and their wide receiver weapons, I like them in the game. I wasn't overly confident about it, but I mean, Barkley, I mean, he's absolutely incredible. Um, so how's Washington gonna stop him or contain him? Like it's gonna be very, very difficult.
That's going to be the thing of the week is how they're going to contain him. But I think also again, Stafford threw for 324, but they did enough defensively. 22 points, holding the Rams 22 points. I mean, I say every time. This is a team that's kind of like a loose cannon. They could go for 40. They can go for 50. That's why I think I give them a chance a lot, the Rams. But the Eagles really shut them down this game, and they kind of contained them, got them to 22, and they know their offense can get over 22. So they did a good enough job. Contained Cooper Cup, contained Puka. Their two weapons. So I think their D line is always amazing. So they get to the quarterback at will. They give pressure. So Matthew Stafford not being the most elusive QB. So once you give him pressure, it's really like he gets under pressure and not a lot he could do. So, just that stuff like that, the Eagles were able to kind of contain them defensively, which is kind of another big thing other than Barkley. I think Barkley's great, but the defense also is a reason why they're here too.
And there's so much to break down in a football game or any sport, and it's worth it. I mean, that's what we do in a show like this, and there's value to it. But ultimately, it's simple. And the Rams turned the ball over twice. The Eagles didn't turn it over. You got to protect the ball.
Yeah.
If the Rams don't turn it over, then I think they win the game. I mean, you look at the rest of the stats. You look at the tail of the tape. I mean, they don't turn it over. I know it's easier said than done, but that decided the game. There were big turnovers in big spots. It cost them. I know the weather, you can say that's where home field advantage comes in. Philadelphia is where the game was. The Rams coming from LA, warm weather climate. So, I mean, that's where home field advantage helps. But, the Rams are a veteran team. They've been there before, so you got to protect the football, and they didn't.
Yeah, they didn't protect the football. I think we said the same thing about last week when they played the Packers. If the Packers didn't turn the ball over 4 times, they turned over 2 times, the Eagles would be out. But is it just the Eagles forced a lot of turnovers? And that could be a thing. That could be a thing that the Commanders definitely watching out for because they didn't really commit a lot of turnovers against the Detroit Lions. So they could be looking at that as another thing to look at other than let's stop Barkley. Let's not turn the ball over.
And another thing with the Rams is they were in the red zone 5 times and scored 2 touchdowns. It's not enough.
Yeah.
40%, obviously, TD rate in the red zone. I mean, that's not getting it done. Now, the Eagles on this side, they were in the red zone twice. Didn't score any TDs. But that right there, I mean, one more touchdown would have got them to 26, so you're still short. But, in the red zone, I mean, not coming through, that's, that cost the Rams too.
Yeah, 2 for 5.
For an offense like theirs, I mean, that's just coming up well short.
Yeah, and the Eagles on 3rd down, they were the same kind of on 3rd down. 6 for 15.
Well, both teams were poor on 3rd down. The Eagles were 6 for 15, and the Rams were 6 for 16.
So, I mean, the Eagles had more time of possession. So, again, they're a team that I think with the Chiefs, I know it's crazy to compare them to the Chiefs. It's crazy, but I think they both have the same quality if they can get it done. Whatever you need, they're going to get it done. And they're going to move on to the next round. It's kind of survive and advance. They both have that kind of thing, kind of quality, which kind of gets them to this point. I think that's to compare those both teams. Not like the Eagles are anywhere in such imagination of what the Chiefs have done. But, hey, I mean, they both get it done in a big way. They both get it done anyway. And they're going to get it done in any way, shape, or form.
The Chiefs are on a different level than the Eagles. And
yes,
there is that element of survive and advance for the Eagles. Like, I've doubted the Eagles all year, and I think it's unfair because I held against them last year, but I think a lot of people did. I think throughout the year, as they kept winning, it's like, all right, let's see if this is for real. But they kept winning, and now I still
want to see if it's for real.
The NFC Championship game.
I still think they're not immune. I think next week they're definitely not immune to getting bounced.
I think they could be beaten. I don't think it's going to be an easy game for them. I said it's tough to pick against them because of Saquon Barkley. I mean, he's just ridiculous.
Yeah. He's ridiculous, and I want to kind of push back on that Eagles Chiefs comparison. I know it's crazy, but I think it's kind of the demon quality of this playoffs is, can you get it done? What way can you get it done? And the Eagles can get it done anyway, and the Chiefs can get it done anyway with their defense and their running the ball ability. I think that's perfect. That's the perfect storm of this playoffs is defense and run the ball. That's what it really comes down to the playoffs is, can you play defense? Can you run the ball?
Yeah, and that plays to the advantage of the Eagles.
Yeah, they plays
It
in
plays
the
to the
advantage of other teams. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the Eagles, the Bills, the Ravens. So yeah, I mean, you look at the Ravens, Derrick Henry and Lamar, and they can run the ball at high will, and their defense is good to great. So you look at all their teams that are in that position, and they run the ball and they play defense. So that's kind of the quality, the kind of pattern that I figured out during this playoffs. So yeah, I mean, talking about the Ravens, they lose a heartbreaker, in my opinion, another heartbreaker.
Yeah.
For the Ravens. Yeah, I mean, drop the ball, whatever you want to call it, choke by Mark Andrews, whatever you want to call it, at the end of the game. They lose 27-25. Does this change your opinion about Buffalo? Because I knew you were a hard guy on Buffalo. Bias is there, but I know that there's I still understand the take. I understand it. I think there is more to prove for them before that, but does it change for you?
Am I too biased if I say no? I mean, look, I emphatically said they were going to lose, but I feel like Baltimore had a big hand in this. I mean, they turned the ball over 3 times. Again, inclement weather, cold weather, but Baltimore's used to it. They play in cold weather too. They've gone on the road, and won games. Like I looked at that game, and Buffalo came up big in big spots, and they deserve credit.
Yeah,
but
their defense.
I look at it more that Baltimore lost the game.
Yeah.
And again, just to tell the tape. I mean, careless with the ball, -3 turnovers. And again, I know you could break down every angle and all the stuff, but it's just one team protected the ball, one team did it. Like the team that protected the ball, they deserve credit. But I view this game as more so Baltimore losing the game. I know it's one play, but it was the last really meaningful play of the game. You're not recovering an onside kick. Like it just doesn't happen anymore in the NFL. So the game is over, but you had a 2-point conversion. That was an easy pass and catch, and it didn't happen. The game should have been tied. So I look more at Baltimore lost this game. And to me, the Bills, it's like, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to say, oh, wow, I'm so impressed. Like, no, okay, you won, but you were the home team.
But I mean, here you are. You're back in that situation where you're playing Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Yeah, so you got to go get it done next week. I'll back off on the Bills if they win next week.
Yeah, I do think that, but I think that it's huge. I mean, they only gave up 25 points to the Ravens, and that's huge. Their defense, I don't think there was any question about that defense. That defense is great. That's the reason they are kind of here. One of the biggest reasons they are here. Defense, great. They did their best with the run game of the Ravens. They did their best. They tried
You look at total yards in the game. I mean, Baltimore had 416. Buffalo had 273. And Buffalo had the greater time of possession. It was close, but let's just say roughly it was Buffalo a little under 32 minutes and Baltimore a little over 28. So Buffalo won the time of possession by a little bit.
Buffalo won the time of possession by 3 minutes. Baltimore 28 and Buffalo at 31 time possession.
But again, just to tell the tape with the stats, I mean, 416 to 273 total yards. Baltimore 7.3 yards per play. Buffalo 4.6. I mean, to Buffalo's credit, they got it done in the red zone. They had 4 times in the red zone. They did score 3 touchdowns. I mean, Baltimore was 2 for 3. We look at third down. Baltimore was good. They were 7 for 10. Buffalo was not so good. They were 5 for 11. Both teams were 1 for 1 on fourth down. There were minimal penalties in the game. Buffalo only had 1. Baltimore had 5, which, isn't that much.
Yeah, and Josh
So
Allen
that was
threw for
limited. Um,
Josh Allen threw for
he only
127,
threw for 126, but
and
he
Lamar
made
threw
big
for
plays in the game.
254.
He how much did he have running? Because he had some big running plays. Didn't he have a couple running
Well, yeah, I think
touchdowns?
he always has big running plays. He ran
Yeah,
for 20 yards.
I'm
Ran
looking
for
that up.
ran for
Um,
22 rushing touchdowns.
so it, so it was only 20. It seemed like it was more yards, but I guess
Well,
it's
I mean, I think
because
the touchdowns maybe made it like
but those were,
more
you know what though?
emphatic.
I give him a lot of credit. He made big plays when he needed to. So it's not all about the stats. So I give him a lot of credit in the game. But again, you look at the tail of the tape, advantage Baltimore, yards not even close, but they turned the ball over 3 times. They dropped the 2-point conversion. And then Andrews what was the big penalty he had? He had a big penalty. Was it on the last drive? I'm trying to remember. But anyway, like Baltimore
Yeah, and
really
also
hurt themselves. And
Andrews fumbled. They had some fumbles. The Ravens.
Andrews fumbled.
Yes.
He fumbled and he dropped that ball. Yeah. So that's what I was thinking of. Not a penalty. He lost the fumble. So you asked the question about the Commanders-Lions game. What was it more about? The Commanders winning the game or Detroit losing the game? And look, I don't want to take credit away from Washington. They deserve a lot of credit. But I think it was more about the Lions losing. And I think the same thing in this game. I think it was more about Baltimore losing the game.
Yeah, I think it was like when you break it down, I think it's a good win for them. Good win for the Bills. They come out and they win a big game for them. Now they're moving on to the Chiefs. But I think the Ravens they kind of fumbled. I mean, they literally fumbled and they did fumble. I think they had a chance. And Lamar moving the ball at will down the field. We see it every single time with Mahomes moving the ball down at will. I mean, this Bills team has some cracks in their armor. They could have easily been down 8 and then easily tied the game back. So, yeah, I mean, I think they had opportunities coming into this game. They had
I think it's a
opportunities to
major
win.
disappointment for Baltimore. They come up short again, and there's going to be questions about them, legitimately so. They come up short again. Last year, they had the AFC Championship game at home. It was Kansas City, but all year it was like, Kansas City, they're not getting it done this year. And then they wind up going into Baltimore, and they went into Buffalo the week before. So both of those teams lost to Kansas City at home in the playoffs last year. So for Baltimore, I mean, this is a massive disappointment. And I don't think you say, it was on the road. No. I mean, again, tail of the tape, yardage. They were dominant there. But again, Buffalo made plays where they needed to. I think Allen deserves a lot of credit, even though his passing yards were very low. The 2 rushing touchdowns. I mean, he's tough. He's tough as nails. I mean, there's so much good you could say about Josh Allen. I mean, he's a great quarterback. Look, he's got to go get to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl, but he's a great quarterback. No question about it. He's, he's an MVP level guy. But Baltimore, just massive disappointment.
Yeah, a massive disappointment. So, let's get into some predictions before we get into baseball. Into some predictions about the games that are moving the championship around. So I want to start here with the first game. I kind of had one, the top game I have in my real app. So it's the first game is Commanders versus Eagles at 3 p.m. in Lincoln Financial. So I want to hear your prediction first, and then I'll give mine.
I said that it was tough to pick against Philadelphia. I'm going to pick against Philadelphia. It's a rookie quarterback, but man, he doesn't play like a rookie. They got something going. I mean, I'm impressed with them. Look, even the win against Tampa's not great, but they've been in the playoffs 5 years in a row. I didn't think Washington was going to win. I thought it'd be a competitive game, but I thought that was an impressive win. That showed a lot. They won at the end. The field goal doinked off the upright, but that was impressive. Rookie quarterback. The franchise hadn't won a playoff game in 19 years. First year not, I mean, a first-year head coach with them. I mean, Dan Quinn has been head coach before. But, for them to win that game and then what they did going to Detroit and just taking it to the Lions, both sides of the ball, I mean, how terrific their offense was. Daniels forcing 5 turnovers. I mean, that's I don't want to say it's as impressive as it gets, but it's close to it. I think there's something there, and I think the conventional wisdom is you pick Philadelphia, they're home, Saquon Barkley, but I just I don't want to say it's just a feeling, but I think there's something special going on with Washington. I think it's going to be a real battle. I think it's going to be close, but I think Washington wins the game late.
Yeah, the spread here is 6 and I think they have said minus 230 that the Commanders will lose. But yeah, I think
they're clearly underdogs, but I'll say Washington 27-24.
Yeah, I think Washington. I think they're in this momentum. They have momentum here. I know it's 1 week, every week you're playing, but I feel like they have that momentum. They just came off of a game where they kind of absolutely dominated and absolutely knocked off the number 1 team in the NFC. That's got to make them feel some type of way that they can go out and knock off the number 2 and then go in the Super Bowl. And also,
I also have this thing with the Eagles where I feel like things are going to catch up to them. Like, I still doubt them. I still look at them, and that game against Green Bay was ugly. That, to me, that was about how terrible Green Bay played. And I thought the Eagles were doing things to try to give the game away. The Eagles played better against the Rams.
But again, I think they could have gave the game away.
Yeah, so it's like I feel like the Eagles are kind of getting away with things. They deserve credit, and Barkley is absolutely amazing. He's clearly the best player in the game on Sunday. But I feel like things are going to catch up to them, and they're facing a team that is on a roll, that won 12 games in the regular season. They split in the regular season against each other. Both games were close. Washington had that dramatic win in Washington. And then Washington just beat Detroit. I know that, I had my issues with Detroit, but Detroit's a really good team. I mean, to go in there and beat them, not only beat them, but the way they did, I mean, it's not as impressive as it gets. It's not a Super Bowl, but it's almost as impressive as it gets.
Do you think the Eagles
I don't expect them to go in, and like
scared.
Yeah, I don't think emotionally
Lincoln Financial Field can be
They have a veteran head coach who's been there in big games.
Lincoln Financial will be rocking, so it's going to be about, are you focused, and do you have the plan at stake? Do you know what you want to do to get that win? And I think they will. I think they know what to do. Yeah, I think they know what to do. And my question here, do you think the Eagles are too dependent on Saquon? Do you think when that passing game, when the Commanders are like, you got to pass here to beat us. You're gonna have to show me that you can pass to beat us. Do you think that's kind of going to show up? That's going to kind of be like the Achilles heel for them going into this game?
I think he's going to get his yards.
I think he is, but are they going to have to pass to beat him? Like, at what point are the Commanders going to be like, you have to throw more yards than you did against the other 2 teams, the Packers and the Rams?
I think they're going to have to make more big passing plays to win this game. Yeah. I think now it's the championship game. They're playing a team that's hot, playing really well. They've clearly arrived. Like Jacob's been saying all season that Washington's Super Bowl window is open. So Jacob, and he'll join us again soon. He's been very high on Washington the whole year, and he's used that phrase, the Super Bowl window is open. And it's clearly open. They're 60 minutes away from the Super Bowl. So, yeah, I think Philadelphia is going to have to get it done in the passing game to win this game. You know,
Yeah,
I think they're going to have to do more in this game if they play like they did certainly against Green Bay, but even against Los Angeles, I think they're going to have to raise their game now because as much respect as I have for Los Angeles, Washington's playing at a really high level now, and I expect Washington to come in and play very well in this game.
I don't think they're gonna get flustered. They're coming in with like, I know I hate this because you're definitely gonna say that there's no like, there's nothing to lose. Oh, there's always something to lose. But I feel like they have
Of
more
course,
of
there's
that.
something to lose. I
There's
can't stand
always
when people say that.
no, that's not the right word. But I feel like they're coming in more loose because the Eagles are a team that if they lose, I mean, it's gonna stink for them. It's really gonna be a big disappointment. The Commanders, I mean, they got there, and they're a team that just they have more. They're coming in with more momentum, as I say.
If Washington had nothing to lose, it was last week. And it's not the right. I mean, you always have something to lose, but in terms of the pressure,
I
there's
think
pressure on both teams, but there was a lot more pressure on Detroit. Washington had pressure. There's always pressure. Bigger the games, the more pressure there is. But there was more pressure on Detroit with their circumstances. But now that Washington won that game, I think there's more pressure on them this week. You know, more pressure on them than they had last week. Now, do the Eagles have more pressure than Washington?
I
Yeah,
think
they're
it'd
the
be a
home
bigger
team.
disappointment.
They're the more experienced team. But Washington is
It,
not going in this game, quote, nothing to lose. This is a
why didn't they
winnable
also
game.
have the bigger Super Bowl aspirations? If that's like the word to use, they have the bigger Super Bowl aspirations than the Commanders do. As much as they're both in the championship round, yes, but I think the Eagles have more Super Bowl aspirations than the Commanders do.
I think there's more pressure on Philadelphia, but I think for Washington, it's expected that they're very competitive in this game. It's not like
Yes,
last week where a lot of people thought they wouldn't be competitive, and then they go and leave no
and
doubt and
and
win
you know
by.
what? They will be competitive in this game because
And I think
again,
that's the expectation. So I think if they're not, that's a disappointment. It's not, oh, well, we got far, we got to the championship game, you know, nobody expected us to be here. No, like I now think the expectations are raised significantly for them. I think it's expected that they're very competitive in this game and have a chance to win.
and they also test the Eagles defense. We talked about them being this great defense, but man, I mean, this Commanders offense is different level, and the way they're playing, the Eagles defense is going to have to be under P's and Q's. And can they get it done? This defense will be pushed to their limit right now. I think they can. As much as I'm thinking about it, I think the Eagles defense is great, but I think the Commanders are going to get enough offensively that they're going to be able to get this win. Because this defense, again, they can get a pick or two, but this offense will keep coming at them. With Daniels, it's a lot to handle with his running ability and the way he can pass. A lot to handle for them. A lot more to handle than Love and Matthew Stafford. As much as we've said Matthew Stafford's great, there's more to handle with Jane Daniels and the way his youth and the way he can run around the field. There's more options are there for him.
And being a rookie could catch up to him in this game, but watching what he's done, I don't think it's gonna. I think he's gonna play well. It may not be enough, but I think he's gonna play at least well in this game.
The Eagles haven't played this type of quarterback yet that just has this dual threat ability. It's simple, but he can run and he can throw. And can the Eagles really plan for that? Because they played Matthew Stafford, who he has weapons, he's going to drop back the pass, and you can put pressure on him, and he's going to flunder. I mean, there's not really a lot he can do. He's getting up there in age, and doesn't really have that speed. He never really had that speed. You play Jordan Love. I mean, he wasn't really known as a speed guy. He's a great arm. But you're playing Jane Daniels here, who can run out of this world, who can throw. It's a different QB they're playing this week. And that's a big thing going in this game. It's a different quarterback. And are the Eagles up for the challenge?
I think they are, but I think Washington's on a roll, and I don't think the moment's going to get to them. I mean, look what they did last week. So, I mean, going to Philadelphia, look, you're outdoors versus indoors. But again, I mean, they play in Washington. I mean, they play in.
Yeah, I mean, they play in the same division, so.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, Philadelphia's a really tough place to play. But I think
They played in
Washington.
Detroit again. They played, which again, Lincoln Financial is going to be rocking, but Detroit is rocking as well. That was like their first Super Bowl type team they haven't in a long time, and they were rocking. So I think Lincoln Financial is going to be kind of the same thing. I'm not going to say anything. This isn't bad to anybody from the Eagles. The Eagles will be rocking, but it's kind of the same thing. Maybe it's a little bit more hype, but it's the same thing. And
I
I
don't
mean,
think that the moment and situation is going to get to Washington. They might lose. I mean, they obviously can. They might get outplayed. Turnovers are always a big factor. So if they don't take care of the ball, well, they're going to lose. But the same thing with Philadelphia. But again, I think they'll rise to the occasion. I don't see them flopping. I don't think the moment is going to get to Daniels. I think he has shown that he's really special, a special talent, and shown that he can get it done on the big stage. So I think this sets up to be a really good game. It's going to be very interesting. Nobody had this matchup, I don't think, but
no,
it's going to be
I
very
didn't.
interesting.
I
And it
definitely,
being
I had the
a
Detroit
division
Lions.
rivalry adds to it as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at what I had. I mean, I probably had like Detroit versus like LA. I mean, this is a matchup that kind of the NFC I felt like was up for grabs. As good as the Lions looked, the NFC was more of up for grabs than the AFC. Like, yes, um you have uh you have Lamar versus Josh Allen. You know that's going to be it. But I feel like it was less up for grabs. You know that's going to be the kind of it's going to be Lamar versus Josh Allen to wait for who's going to play Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
That I feel like it was more up for
Yeah, I agree with you.
like the NFC was more of a kind of what did I had Detroit versus Philly. Yeah, I had Detroit versus Philly. So
I had Kansas City versus Los Angeles, so I got one Super Bowl team alive.
in the Super Bowl, I had Detroit versus Kansas City, which is, I mean, I just tried to
Well,
win
you have
over
the
my
Chiefs.
what?
I said you have the Chiefs, so we both got the Chiefs.
Yeah, I just didn't want to be. I didn't want to be the whole. I didn't want to be like weird and pick the Chiefs. But I thought like in my mind, yes, the Chiefs are gonna win. But I actually put it as the Lions. But yeah, I thought the NFC was wide open, and I think the Eagles are a team that or a team that was red hot down the stretch. I think we talked about momentum, and they were a team that was red hot down the stretch, and it kind of pushed through forward to the playoffs. As much as the regular season is the regular season, they were hot, and that was big for this playoffs. Big, and with the stadium rocking, you could kind of count it against the Packers and the Rams.
It's a big factor. But again, I calculate it, and yeah, it would be an upset, but give me Washington 27-24 in a really good game.
I'm gonna give me Washington 31-27. Give me Washington 31-27. It's going to be a little bit of high scoring than you said, because I think again at the end of the day, how much points can the Eagles score? Can the Eagles keep up with the Commanders, or will the Eagles just dominate them defensively? It's a lot of stuff that can happen
I
here.
think weather will be a factor too. We got to see what the weather's like on Sunday too.
Yeah. But yeah, another game, another Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes. At 6:30 Sunday, Patrick Mahomes plays Josh Allen again in Arrowhead. Is this the first time the Bills get it done? What is your kind of feeling? I kind of have a feeling of what you're going to say, but is this the first time they can get it done?
No. Chiefs. I think I've said enough on Kansas City and Buffalo.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a
I
game.
think Kansas City gets it done. They could win in different ways. They could win in any way they need to win. They're home. Buffalo, they're really good, but going up against Kansas City, and again, I give Buffalo some credit, but I look at it more like Baltimore lost last week in that game. I'm just going with the Chiefs. I think they're that special. Mahomes is that special. Mahomes to Kelsey. They have a good defense. They have a great head coach. They have a great system and program and organization. Put all that together, I just go with them.
This is the
I think it'll
worst.
be a game.
Yeah.
I think it'll be close.
It's gonna be must-see TV, in my
I
opinion.
like what you said, that the Chiefs have not scored 30 points yet this year, but you feel like it's going to happen at some point.
And it's gonna happen this game because again, it stinks to be in the AFC. This is a time where it's like you kind of don't want because you're kind of gonna run the Chiefs every single time, and the Chiefs never really get bounced, and they're always a team that is kind of steady. They're always gonna be here, and it's always like kind of it doesn't matter the record. They're gonna be here in the championship round. They're gonna be playing the Bills or the Ravens. These are it's those teams that kind of are at a disadvantage, in my opinion, whenever they play in the AFC. It's how good this team is. And again, it will be must-see TV, as it always is. Josh Allen versus Mahomes, must-see TV, as would Lamar versus Mahomes would be, or Joe Burrow versus Mahomes, always must-see TV. So, yeah, as I always say, it's crazy, but the Chiefs make good television. So,
This will be great television. I mean, both these games, but this game, I mean, just absolutely great television. I'm going to go Kansas City 31-24.
I'm going to go Kansas City 30-27. I think Harrison Butker game winner.
Okay.
That's I think Mahomes goes down and scores and gets the team in the field goal range. And like he always does. And they leave about 2 minutes left on the clock. He gets the ball back with like 2:30 and he gets them down in the field goal range. Just something like that.
I think it's going to be a good one. I think we're going to come on here next week, and my take is going to be, look, I don't think you can knock Buffalo. I think it'll be a very good game. I don't think Buffalo's going to lay an egg. I certainly don't think Kansas City is. I expect a good competitive game. Again, I think when we come on next week after the game, I don't think there's going to be much to knock with Buffalo. It's just going to be like, look, they came up short again, but it was a competitive game, and the Chiefs are just that good. They just know how to win. They're an all-time team. And then I expect them to go on and win the Super Bowl and make history.
So, yeah, I mean, let's get into a little bit about the MLB. You want to get
Jack, let's just take a break for 1 minute, okay? Take a 1 minute break, and then we'll come back.
So let's get into baseball a little bit. We had to pause for a little bit, but I want to talk about have you been in the know about the Vlad situation, about him trying to get signed back, or the Blue Jays trying to get him signed back? But at the end of the day, you see Juan Soto get his contract, you're like, do we like him and the agent are really looking at each other like, we really want to test free agency? So what's your kind of opinion on that kind of thing? Do you think they're going to get a deal done? Do you think he gets traded at all? Like, do you think the Blue Jays saying they won't trade him is bluff? Like, what's your kind of opinion there about him?
My hunch is he's not going to be back with the Blue Jays. I think he'll get more money elsewhere, and if he's not going to re-sign with them, then they might as well trade him now. I mean, you'll get more value for him now than you will, if you wait till the deadline. Say they're out of it. They say, we'll wait till the deadline, see if we're in a playoff race. But you'll get less for him, maybe even significantly less for him, I think, before the deadline than you would here in this offseason.
To give more context to it, I don't think they kind of like strictly said, I'm not trading him this season. What they said is they want more than the Michael King for Juan Soto kind of trade. They want more to get back than that. So that's kind of a thing that they wanted. They want more to get back. So if they want more, and there's the Mets, who want him, and they know they can give him the money that he asked for. I mean, he has family in New York. He has his barber in New York. So, if there's a team that wants to give him money and will give him money, it's the New York Mets. So and they also need a first baseman as it currently is. I mean, Pete Alonso's whatever. We'll talk about him later. But I think there's a team like the Mets or another team that can offer them much money. They're going to offer their prospects. I think you got to take them. You got to rebuild if you're them.
Yeah, I think the deal is right. You trade him. I mean, if he's not going to be back, or the odds are against being back, deal him now. Get what you can. I mean, you don't just make a deal for the sake of a deal, obviously, but I think the Blue Jays need to be open to that.
Yeah, and I think they aren't stupid in the fact that I think they know that he is going to touch free agency. They're going to try to make a deal, but I think at the end of the day, the way Juan Soto did it kind of moved the whole entire thing of I'm going to sign right now. As much as a player might like that place, they're going to try to get the most money possible, and that's going to be in free agency, and that's going to be testing the market. So unless Vlad gets blown away, he's going to be in free agency. That's just my opinion on that situation.
Yeah, I
But,
agree. Yeah,
so again,
I don't see him back with Toronto. I think there'll be other bidders that will outbid Toronto.
yeah,
So that means that Toronto should explore trading him. They're a team in transition. They had a tough year last year. Tough division with New York, the Yankees, and Baltimore. And we'll see with the Red Sox. I mean, they're not that good, but they're better. Tampa Bay is always competitive. So I think Toronto's kind of in a tough spot right now. So, I don't like their odds of re-signing Guerrero. So I think they should explore a deal. Maybe the Mets are a fit.
yeah. I mean, I think there's teams that are going to be fit for him, and I mean, they go out and it's kind of a weird thing. They go out and they kind of overpay. They overpay in years for Anthony Santander. He's another player that was in the free agency market. Gave him 5 for 93, which made it 18.5 a year. So the Blue Jays kind of made it like they're a team that's kind of like, do they want to win now? Like, were they trying to get a deal done with Vlad? But is this going to try to make him sign back? Because I don't think it will. What do you like if you're the Blue Jays? Like, what are you trying to do here? Because you signed a
If
guy.
you're saying if they trade him, will he come back as a? Absolutely not. That usually doesn't happen. People talk about that, but that rarely
No, no,
happens.
no. I didn't say that. Like,
Oh,
with
okay.
Anthony Santander, will that kind of make him sign back? Is that the kind of thing like they will that kind of make him sign an extension, getting Anthony Santander for a long term extension? I just don't think so. I think the money talks
I
here.
don't think so. I
And
don't think a lot of these guys care. I don't want to be too hard on these guys, but it seems like more and more, these days it's just who's giving me the most money. Um, I don't know. Maybe that's unfair to the players as a whole, but I don't know exactly what Vladimir Guerrero is thinking. Of course, I thought with Soto was obvious just by his comments, the way he approached it, that he was going to go where he get the most money. Guerrero, I'm not so sure.
and Boris, and I think him having Boris, I think that's also big too.
Yeah, yeah. Boris is always a big factor.
Yeah, but I want to get a little bit into the Mets again. I mean, they go out and they sign AJ Minter and they sign Jesse Winker, but then they say like that's great. But then they say that that's their plan B from Alonso. I think that's bluff. I think it's a negotiation bluff. I don't think they're actually out on Alonso. I think that they're at
I
the end
don't
of the
buy
day.
it either. I'm with you, Jack. I don't buy it either. First of all, like reports that get out there, some of them are true, some of them are not. It's like, okay, I'm with you. I think there's negotiation tactics going on here.
I think there is because they're the only one at the table right now. Is it at the end of the day like I think it's more of like a I think they are like kind of pivoting, but I think it's more of like come back with a better offer if you can. In the next week, come back with a better offer. Then you know what? We'll see if we can match. But if you can't, then you got to sign this deal in the next week. The type of thing that they are because the Mets are the only one at the end of the table. I think at the end of the day, as Scott Boras said, the last person that he's going to call is going to be Steve Cohen about this. If Toronto, for example, goes out, give him like 4 for 100, and then he goes ring ring ring. Oh, it's Steve Cohen 4 for 100. Can you match that? I think at the end of the day, that's the last call he's going to get is Steve Cohen. Steve Cohen and David Stearns. That's the last call that Scott Boras is going to get him is going to give. I think at the end of the day, no matter if they say they're out, I think it's going to be the last call at the end of the day. And that's what I think he said at winter meetings, or said before that, said during the offseason that's going to be the last call they're going to give on Alonso is to Steve Cohen and David Stearns. So I think he's going to keep with that, and that's why I feel comfortable with the Mets bringing him back.
I still think he's going to be back with the Mets.
It's a good fit.
Yeah.
I think, again, I think Steve Cohen not going in and giving him the contract and kind of intervening is good, because again, you hire David Stearns to make those type of decisions, to negotiate and to get that dollar amount to where it is now. And again, why would you compete with yourself? It's just not right.
Yeah.
Why would you compete with yourself? And again, it stinks. I mean, you signed Juan Soto, stinks for Pete Alonso. I mean, you signed this guy to $765. Why can't you give me 5 years, whatever he wants? But that's what the market is telling you. I think at the end of the day, it's marketing. And Pete Alonso and Scott Boras played it awfully. They played it completely bad. And now you're going to be looking at best 3 to 4 years, when he could have got a 7-year deal last season in arbitration. So, yeah, I think he played the market bad. Signing Boras, played the market bad, and now he's sitting at the end of the table as the last big free agent. I mean, Bregman's out there, but I feel like there's a 5-year deal already given to him. I think he's gonna be off the table in a few days, so he will be the last free agent on the table, last big free agent on the table, and he kind of played it awfully. And now his market's dwindling. Tampa Bay could have been a suitor. I don't know if they're still on Alonso. It would stink because Vlad's in a contract year. Would he want to move off first in a contract year? Do you want to do that? Would that make him unhappy? In a contract year, if they do keep him, why would they move him? That would just ruin his value. So I don't see them getting a first baseman. Kind of lit, like every day goes on, more shooters leave the table for Alonso that could give him a contract. So I think it's the Mets, just the perfect team for him.
I think that's how it's going to wind up. It may still take some time. It could take a few more weeks. Could go up against spring training. More and more of these situations have gone that way. We've seen this, but I can't say I'm supremely confident, but I think he's going to be back with the Mets.
Well, I think it won't go to spring training because the Mets still have other stuff to do. I think they want to hammer a deal in. They want to. I think they really do. Because they said they might be moving off of it because they do understand, okay, Pete Alonso, you don't accept this deal in a week. We're done talking to you. We're going to pivot other ways. I mean, the deal's still on the table for you. Take it. We would love to have you be a Met. The deal's on the table, but we're done kind of negotiating. We're going to go and get AJ Minter because there is other holes in this team. And you're kind of a World Series type of team. You don't want to be stuck on negotiating with Pete Alonso. So I think there's going to be, let's get in the Tanner Scott sweepstakes. Let's go talk to AJ Minter. Let's get him. Let's go bring back Jesse Winker. So I think there's them pivoting other places. I think that's what they're going to do now. So I think it shows what they're. I don't think it's going to go up the spring training. I don't think Scott Boras wants it. I don't think Pete Alonso wants it. I don't think the Mets want it. So I think it's going to be getting done in a few days.
Yeah, very well could. I mean, it's tough to tell. I think your argument makes a lot of sense. I just said it could go up to spring training just based on recent history with the way these sort of things go in baseball. But what you said makes a lot of sense. It kind of convinced me that that's probably the way it goes. But I wouldn't be surprised if it went on for a few more weeks, just because these sort of things, these negotiations, you've seen more and more of these situations, go up to spring training right before the start, or even, a little bit after. But again, I can't say I'm supremely confident, but I think Alonso will wind up back with the Mets.
Yeah, I think Alonso will wind up back with the Mets. I think I'm kind of confident, as much as I'm swaying more towards if there's a confident meter, I'd be like 70-30. Maybe it was I was like more of 90-10 a few weeks ago. Yes, it kind of came down. I mean, even if the word pivot is there, it's kind of gets me a little bit less confident. But I think it's still big confidence they will bring him back. But yeah, let's move on to another team that will be competing with the Mets. At the end of the day, the Mets are always going to be competing with the Dodgers for the next 5 to 10 years. Um, they're spending money. They're going out there and they're
Are they
really
going to be competing with them? Is anybody going to compete with them?
no. I mean, they're going to be up against them. I think that's a better word. They're going to be
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I think I'm joking around. Like they will be competing with them, but the Dodgers are loaded.
Yeah, I mean
They were loaded. They're even more loaded.
they get the Roki Sasaki, which I felt like it was always a done deal. It was always a done deal.
Yeah.
It was always a done deal. I know the Mets were in it, then they got taken out, then the Yankees got taken out. It was Toronto Blue Jays or Dodgers. Felt bad that Toronto Blue Jays had to give up a guy to get international signing money. I mean, it was always.
I thought the whole way he was going to the Dodgers, and I think a lot of people thought that's no hot take.
Maybe
I think that
Mets,
was the conventional wisdom, and it was no surprise.
I thought the Mets did have it for a second because of what the Mets have done with other pitchers. And Jeremy Hefner, I thought that would kind of sway him towards that. Maybe it was different than Yamamoto. Maybe he had a different mindset. But again, I don't blame. He wants to go play with his guys, and he wants to go win a couple World Series. So that's what he's going to do, and that's what he wanted to do. So good for them. But then Tanner Scott signs in the next few days. Tanner Scott then signs, and they get Kirby Yates this morning. So, man, this team's loaded. Is it again? Is this bad for baseball? That's the question.
I think they got to change the rule where they're allowed to defer money and get around the luxury tax. They have to stop that. The Dodgers have plenty of money. The Mets have plenty of money. The Yankees have plenty of money. The Red Sox have plenty of money, even though they don't spend nearly as much as they used to. Cubs have a lot of money. The big market teams. So for me, it's not so much that they're spending a lot of money. Like, go for it. Baseball's never going to have a hard salary cap. The union is too strong. They would never go for it.
And yeah, I'm thinking
I'm not for that. I don't want a hard salary cap, but I think this deferred money thing has to stop.
It has to get to
in order to get around the luxury tax threshold. Like that can't be. And maybe it doesn't. Maybe see, I say this though, like because the Dodgers do it, means that the luxury tax is a factor for them. So if you change the rule, then they're probably not spending the way they've spent. I don't know that for sure, but they have worked around the rule. I mean, they're within the rules, but they're working around the luxury tax and, getting by on the amount of tax they got to pay. So I think that needs to be changed, but beyond that,
I think they're.
I've never wanted a hard salary cap for baseball. Again, it's not even worth discussing because it's never going to happen.
Yes, please don't happen.
But
please.
But I will say that I don't know that it's bad for baseball because having a team that everybody's chasing after, having a juggernaut, having a dynasty has really always been good for sports. I mean, the Yankees had multiple dynasties, and the Yankees' last dynasty in the late 90s, early 2000s, I think was overall good for baseball. The Yankees, you either love them if you're a fan or you hate them. So the Dodgers have become that. I don't know if it's the Yankees level, but I mean, it's probably close. So the Dodgers do draw a lot of interest. So I can't say that it's bad for baseball, but I think the luxury tax element is bad for baseball.
I think it is bad for baseball, but I also think it's bad for baseball that there aren't teams that are spending. At the bottom, there's teams that aren't even trying. That also needs to get fixed up. There's a lot of stuff that needs to get fixed up at the MLB offseason. Some teams just aren't spending at all. That stinks, man. That's not fun. That's not fun for the fans. Other teams that just aren't spending. You could spend like that, but the teams aren't spending.
Particularly that these teams get money from the big market teams because they have revenue sharing. That's the whole point of the luxury tax. And then they don't invest in the payroll. I think there should be a payroll floor. I think there should be a minimum that the teams have.
I think there is. I think that's why is that why the A's?
No, there isn't one.
There isn't one, but I think the A's had to spend because of something they moved location.
Well, because they're moving, so
yes,
moving to Vegas, so they're in a better situation now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a payroll floor.
Did the Marlins even spend this offseason? Like, they didn't even spend once. Like, there's some teams that aren't spending 1 cent. That needs to be changed. Maybe it's not as big an issue as the Dodgers, but see, that needs to be fixed up. There's teams that need to spend. That just aren't spending. It's not good for baseball. Teams could spend in the AL. I don't understand why you're not. You could easily spend it and now be this team in the AL that could compete with the Yankees.
Yeah, but I don't think it's that the big market teams are spending. Like, I think that's generally good for baseball. Now, again, I do not like getting around the luxury tax. I don't like that manipulation. I think that has to end. But I don't want a hard salary cap. I think having the big market teams spend a lot and have really good teams, great teams, dynasty is overall good for sports, no matter what sport it is. I mean, it always has been. So, have a team like the Dodgers. The Yankees aren't what they were, but they're still very good. They were in the World Series last year. Now I have the Mets, up there with the NLCS. They get Soto, major expectations. So I think that's really good for baseball. I mean, to have the Mets where they're at now. I know Mets fans want to go win a championship, but the Mets are on the scene. I mean, they're big time. They're all in. So that stuff is really good for baseball. But you're right about the small market teams. There's disadvantages for sure. But some of these teams that
aren't even
do not invest much in the payroll.
Not even spending a cent. Like, really? Like a team like the Blue Jays are spending. They don't even have a ballpark, and they're spending. Or they're going to play somewhere, but they're not playing their own ballpark, and they're spending. So it's like other teams aren't even spending a cent, which I think is a problem. Even if you're a small market, get spend more than no money.
I think there should be a salary floor. I mean, I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know. I don't think the owners would go for it. But yeah, it's a major problem. But I don't think you could blame it on the big market teams. Like, yeah, the big market teams have an advantage. You could even say a major advantage, but there's clearly teams that just do not spend money. I mean, the owner is, I know it's putting it too, it's too simplistic, but the owner's pocketing money. Like, well, they're not investing in the team. I mean, they may have other business ventures like with the Red Sox. I mean, they're a big market team, but that's a big complaint of the fans, including myself, that, John Henry and Fenway Sports Group are invested in multiple things. I mean, they own the Pittsburgh Penguins. They own Roush Fenway Racing. They have this golf thing they have now. They have Liverpool, so, they're spending less money on the Red Sox. So that's really frustrating the Red Sox fans. And I think rightfully so. But these small market teams, like, look, these owners are all billionaires. So, if you're going to own a Major League Baseball team, you would hope that these people would be invested in the team and trying to do everything they can win. But unfortunately, that's not the case with all of them. And you can't fire the owners.
I think people like Steve Cohen need to be kind of looked up to because he cares about his team. He invests in the team. He knows what he's investing in. He's also, I'm not expecting everybody to be as big as a fan as he is. He's a big fan of the organization.
Yeah, and he doesn't have to invest the way he has. Like, I mean, Yankee fans are not happy with Hal Steinbrenner. The Yankees have still one of the top payrolls, but they don't spend the way they did when George Steinbrenner was the owner, when he was alive. So I think rightfully so. Yankee fans have a gripe. It's like, look, I mean, you're bringing in all this revenue, making all this money, and yeah, you got one of the top payrolls, but you're not going the extra mile like the Yankees used to under Hal's father. But Steve Cohen could have bought the Mets, and I mean, what's the Mets payroll now? 350 or whatever it is. Say it's 350. Like, he could easily be spending 250, which would be a lot of money. But I think Mets fans, rightfully so, if that were the case, be saying, look, like, you're spending 250, but you could be spending a lot more. But credit to Cohen, he's fully invested and he's spent a ton of money on the team. Just signed Juan Soto. So, even though the smaller market, it's, less money involved. They can't spend like the big market teams too, but there's small market teams that could spend a lot more than they are.
So,
and yes, it is a major problem.
Okay. So I wanted to wrap this up a little bit by talking about the Knicks win. Their signature, I guess I would say it's a signature win. Their defense, man. I think it's a big thing about the Knicks is we were talking about is their defense. I was kind of ranting a lot in my last episode of Nick of Time about their defense and about how bad it looked and about how bad the offense looked. But they kind of shut me up. That defense played great. I think that's a big thing about how they got that win. I think it's a signature win for them. Big signature win. It shows what their defensive capability is. They shut down Trae Young. 7 turnovers for Trae Young. They were able to shut him down. They were able to do their best on him. He was trying to empty the clip, trying to, do his villain thing in New York, which, again, I think it screws over the team as a whole. He doesn't really look for other players sometimes where he's dancing around offensively and DeAndre Hunter's open on the wing. He just doesn't pass him because he's trying to be his villain in New York. It's not. I think it's bad for the team. Sometimes it's very bad. But
What about the Timberwolves game? I know yesterday was good for the Knicks, but what happened in the Timberwolves game?
Again, that's what kind of spurred my frustration. 99 points, giving up 116. Is that that's not a recipe for winning. I think only scoring 99 points. I mean, again, I think I'm going to kind of reiterate what I said, but the offense is a lot to be left to be desired. OG 18 points, 5 for 10, 3 for 6, and you have Bridges who only scores 15. He isn't dribbling once. Like, somebody else needs to put the ball on the floor other than Brunson. And I think this is gonna be a big thing come playoff time. Is who else gonna put the ball on the floor when another team kind of forces somebody else to put the ball on the floor? Because they will. Teams study, as we talk about the NFL playoffs and how they study for how to stop the run, how to stop the passing game. Other teams will study how to stop Jalen Brunson. It's hard to do, but when teams figure out, force the ball out of his hands, who else is going to be the one to step up? And right now, it's not looking good for the next person to step up. But again, it shows me another game where they beat the Atlanta Hawks where Mikal Bridges goes for 22 and he puts the ball on the floor a lot and he scores. So it's really of a kind of next man up after Jalen Brunson offensively, which is what's kind of concerning me right now. That's the most thing that's concerning me offensively. The bench is whatever. I mean, Campaign is playing great. He's giving you that spark plug off the bench in a short amount of time. Deuce McBride's giving you defense and offense. The bench is fine. Could see it get better, but at the time of this, and the CBA and the salary cap, not a lot you can do. You have to live with what you have. But I think there's gonna be a big thing in the playoff time where who's else gonna score outside of Brunson? Who else gonna create their own shot outside of Brunson? And that's gonna be the big thing come playoff time. And also the defense. Will those players lock in defensively? Because we know they have a different gear defensively. OG Anunoby's a great defender. But will those players lock in defensively in a playoff series? Like Mikal Bridges. It's going to be something to see this come playoff time. A lot of questions about this team, which there should be a lot because of what the Knicks did this offseason. There's some questions.
And the expectations are really high, and they should be. So, I mean, would you say it's conference finals or bust?
I think so. I think so.
And it's going to be tough to get there with the way Cleveland has played, and then Boston beat Golden State by 40 points on the road last night.
Yeah, I think, Golden State's Golden State, but yeah.
I know they're not what they were, but still, I mean, 40-point win on the road.
Yeah, 40-point win on the road they're just run-through teams. Both the Thunder and the Cavs are running-through teams. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough Eastern Conference, but again, you put the piece together to be in that tough Eastern Conference, to be competing head to toe. And you know what? I changed my expectation. If you go to the second round, you go to 7 with the Celtics or the Cavs, and you fight hard. I know it's a cop out, but if they do, because these teams are amazing. Like the Celtics and the Cavs are great.
Well, that's what's so tough. I mean, it's going to be really tough to get to the conference finals. I mean, I don't think many people are going to pick the Knicks to get there under the circumstances. I mean, Cleveland, I don't think anybody thought they were going to be this good. But with them in Boston, I mean, they stand in the way the Knicks get to the conference finals. But the issue is, I mean, the Knicks have been to the second round each of the last 2 years, and they lost in Game 7 at home last year. I know, I mean, the injuries caught up to them, but still, they lost the Game 7 home to Indiana. The expectation this year was to at least get to the conference finals and be very competitive in that conference finals. But, it really has changed here. You thought Boston would be great, and they are, and I think they're just going to keep getting better and better and raising their game as the season goes. But with the emergence of Cleveland, it's really changed the situation in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, it has, and I think what I've noticed about this team is I know it's kind of a cop-out, but it's a 4-year project. You have all your core locked up for 4 years, so it's a 4-year project for this team, and I think this team's going to win one. As we said, I think you said about the Commanders, about their Super Bowl windows open. The Knicks championship window is open. It's open. It's wide open. And it's going to be a 4-year project. I mean, they have Catton for 4 years, Mikal for 2 years, OG for 5 years, Jalen Brunson for 5 years, Josh Hart for about 3 to 2 years. They have a window. It's definitely more than 1 year. So we'll see how this Knicks team progresses in the future, and let's see if they can really make some noise this first year of their project. That's what my opinion on this team is. I know it's a cop-out of and there's a lot of expectations. You want to win first year, but that's kind of my broad expectation of this team for the next future.
Yeah, I think the window's definitely open. It's just really tough. I mean, Boston stands in the way. I mean, Boston's looking to build a dynasty now. With the emergence of Cleveland in the Eastern Conference, I mean, those are the top 3 teams in the East, but right now the Knicks are the 3rd team. I mean, the Western Conference, look, you don't have to worry about that conference of the NBA Finals, but you look at the year that the Thunder are having, I mean, they're just absolutely terrific. So, yeah, I mean, the Knicks window is open, but right now they're that 3rd team in the East. And they got to find a way. Again, I think that expectation of getting the conference finals, I get what you're saying. If you go 7 and the second round against one of those 2 teams, like, okay, that was a really valiant effort. But, that'll be frustrating, though, because it's another year, right? And you're never guaranteed to get back.
Yeah,
I think that window is open. But, again, there really is no guarantees for, like next year you could be injury riddled or another team emerges. The Knicks are in a good spot, but right now I think it's clear that they are that 3rd team in the East.
Yeah, it's clear. I think they could jump Cleveland. They definitely could. And I think the Celtics aren't invincible. Like, I think they can be beat. So that's the thing. I mean, I think those the top 2 teams that we talk about in the Celtics and the Cavs in the East, they can be beat. So
the Celtics are excellent, but we're not talking about the Jordan Bulls or the Duncan Spurs. What was Robinson's first name?
David Robinson.
David Robinson, right? With those 2, not the Lakers with Shaq and Kobe. I mean, they're really good. They're excellent, but I don't think they're that level.
So yeah, I mean that means they can be beat. So yeah,
I don't even think they're the recent Warriors dynasty.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, I think they definitely can be beat. And with a team like the Knicks, with Jalen Brunson leading that show, a superstar, with Mikal Bridges, with OG Anunoby, with Karl-Anthony Towns been playing like a top 5 player in the league, an all-star starter. That's a team that definitely go out and beat with that duo of Cat and Brunson. Can definitely cause a lot of problems for the Celtics and the Cavs. Kind of trying to match up with that. And their spacing. And their 3-point shooting and their defense. So I think they're going to give teams problems. Teams fits. So it's about fixing up those little things, the little tweaks that the Knicks need to answer. But I think I have faith they can definitely take Cleveland.
So, Jack, how about next show we talk a bit about the trade deadline? Because that's coming up in a few weeks, right?
Yeah.
It's in February, mid-February?
Yeah.
It's on the horizon. So how about next week
or something like that
open up the discussion about potential trades and what you think the Knicks
around the
could
Super
do.
Bowl. Yeah. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode of Jacked Up Being Frank. We will see how the NFL championship predictions, how our championship predictions pan out. And we will keep an eye on the Knicks momentum and see if they can build off of that momentum and after the great win against Atlanta. And we'll follow the latest on Peter Alonso because this week itself can really show a lot on what his future is in the Met and what the Mets do, of course, in the next coming weeks. Thank you for tuning in. Have a nice day.